61 points to 7, an absolute dominant performance by the Springboks, but what did it cost them? And I know that might be a little bit dramatic, but I am going to get into it because with big games like France and Ireland coming up in a couple of weeks, I think Rassie will be regretting his decision of starting Oxenshire. As always, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you haven't, please hit that subscribe button, and as always, leave this video a like. So 61 points to 7, an absolute demolition of Japan. The Springboks looked absolutely incredible. I mean, they started off with such high intensity, scoring in the third minute. Siya Kolisi scoring off the back of the maul, and we kind of looked like we didn't have any rust on us. You got to remember that there's 9 guys who play their rugby in Japan, have come into the squad. It is a little bit changed from what we had in the Rugby Championship, and we never really showed signs of rust, which kind of shows how well these guys know the system at the moment, shows how well the combinations are working together, and maybe shows where we're going to be when we play France in Paris next week and Ireland in Dublin in a couple of weeks. Now, there is a couple of things to go over in this game because, yes, the scoreline looks very good, 61 points to 7. Japan did put up a good fight against Australia last week, but the Springboks were just far, far too good for them. First of all, I want to touch on Sasha Feinberg-Ngumazulu because I think on his day, and today again was one of those days, and I think he has more on days than he does off, and I think his average performance is way above the rest of the other fly-offs in the Springbok camp in Handré Pollard and Manie Libbok. And again, Sasha Feinberg-Ngumazulu showed exactly what he's about. Scored 2 tries, he assisted 1. I think he could have assisted another one. His kicking was perfect, his out-of-hand kicking was perfect, and although he didn't have that much ball, I didn't think we played a very forward-dominant style in that first half. Sasha Feinberg-Ngumazulu, when he got the ball, he found space, he broke open some gaps. Like I said, I mean, even that kick chase that he sort of did on his own, got the ball on about the 50th meter, kicked an up and under, managed to regain it and went over for a try. No other fly-off, maybe Manie Libbok can do that, but Sasha Feinberg-Ngumazulu seems to do that almost every second week. He seems to score an incredible kick chase try almost every second week. He did it against Argentina in Durban, and I think Sasha is really putting his hand up for that number 1 spot in that Springbok fly-off jersey. I don't know if Manie or Handré Pollard can give the Springboks what Sasha gives them on his day. The next point, and you've seen the title of this video, is was it worth it playing Oxenshire in this game? In the build-up to this game, I said Rassie should be resting the likes of an Ox, a Siya, an Earben. The guys have played so much rugby for club, being at the Sharks, and they've also played a lot of rugby for the Springboks so far this year. For Ox to get injured in the 18th minute, and yes, we had just scored a try and it all looks good, but then you kind of look back and Oxenshire is down on the floor, and who's arguably been our most in form, probably our best player of the season, gets injured just before, probably, I would say France is a bigger game than Ireland. Getting injured just before France is a massive, massive blow, and I know a lot of people might say, yes, but we have so much depth. But I don't think it's acceptable for Ox to have played in this game. I said it this week in the build-up to this game that Ox should never, ever have played against Japan for this reason and this reason only. If he doesn't play against France next week, then that is a big blunder on Rassie part, and I'll stick by that because we need Ox against the likes of France. Zachary Porthen made his debut tonight, and although he wasn't spectacular, he didn't shoot the lights out. I think that's exactly what you expect from a debutant, the youngest prop debutant to ever take the field for the Springboks. He made some big hits, he made a lot of tackles, he did a lot of dirty work, he scrummed well, and I think he's definitely one for the future. Rassie is building a squad that can even go past the 2027 Rugby World Cup. If you look at guys like Sasha, if you look at guys like Ethan Hooker, now Zachary Porthen sort of coming into the mix. There's a lot of young guys that Rassie is bringing through the ranks at the moment. And I mean, if we're speaking about squad depth, we have to mention Andre Esterhuizen. It's been one of the big talking points leading into this game. Andre Esterhuizen named in the 20 jersey on the bench. I kind of joked saying that Rassie has invented a new bench split, the 5.5, 2.5, but that's exactly what he's done. And Andre Esterhuizen came on and did exactly what his number suggested, and he slotted in at flank. And to be honest, he was probably the most impactful forward to come off of the bench tonight. Andre Esterhuizen got over for a maul try, which was eventually disallowed. He eventually scored another try. He stole a ball. He was making big hits. He was all over the field. And if you think that Andre Esterhuizen is now playing flank. He's probably played in that 12 jersey for the majority of his career. Rassie Rasmus sort of played around with it early in the year of playing him as a hybrid, but it now seems to be sort of set in stone that Andre Esterhuizen can play that 6-12 shift, that hybrid player that Rassie Rasmus has kind of been speaking about, and now we kind of see him implement it. If you think about our bench in these big games against France and Ireland, if you have Andre Esterhuizen in that number 20 jersey, Kwagga Smith, if you have a Sasha or a Damian Willemse on the bench, then all of a sudden the bench almost looks like a 4-4 split, where yes, we're taking a risk by going 6-2, or even sometimes 7-1. We could potentially play a 7-1, which in essence looks like a 6-2 normally, because if Andre Esterhuizen can play in that 20 jersey, we could go in with one backline player, Andre Esterhuizen. The backline player is probably a scrum off. Grant Williams can also float around, play wing, play fullback, play wherever. But Andre Esterhuizen has unlocked a new facet of rugby for the Springboks. I don't think we should underestimate how genius that move is from Rassie Rasmus, because all of a sudden we can play a 6-2 split, which is actually a 5-3 split, or a 7-1 split, which is actually a 6-2 split. So it gives us a lot more options, and we saw that's how deadly that 7-1 split was against the All Blacks before the 2023 Rugby World Cup, and we saw how good it was in the final against the All Blacks in that 2023 Rugby World Cup. So Rassie Rasmus is building a squad that looks very, very dangerous. If you think about the youth coming through, if you think about the type of innovation he's done with Andre Esterhuizen, you know, Kwagga Smith and RG Snyman are probably our best impact players coming off the bench. RG Snyman had a very, very good day out in the office. I think resting Eben Etzebeth was the best thing because Luat Dioche didn't get injured. Archie Snyman played 80 minutes, and then Ruan Nokia sort of came off of the bench. The next point I want to speak about is Cheslin Kolbe at 15. And while I was watching the game, I was having a chat with my mates who's watching the game as well. And we were kind of discussing if Cheslin Kolbe's best for that 15 jersey, because you kind of see him slot into that first receiver, almost that Willie Leroux type of role when Sasha Feinberg and Ngumazulu or whoever the fly-off is either on the ground or out of play. Then Willie would sort of fit into that first receiver. We saw it a few times in the first half where Cheslin got into that first receiver, tried a couple of cross kicks, but I don't think he's as good as creating space as what Willie Leroux was. Cheslin Kolbe is way more dangerous on the wing when the space has been created for him. So yes, I know he's just filling in for Damian Willemse and Apelele Fassi's injured and Willie Leroux hasn't been selected in the squad, but I don't think Cheslin Kolbe is made for that 15 jersey for the Springboks. He's way more lethal out wide, and I mean, we saw it in that second half when he kind of got the ball in our 22, had a little bit of space, broke the line, put a chip through. Kurt Arendse ends up going over for the try. So I don't think we'll be playing Cheslin Kolbe in that 15 jersey when we have the likes of a Damian Willemse or Apelele Fassi available. And then the question comes in, obviously Cheslin Kolbe fits in on the wing. Ethan Hook has been unbelievable for the Springboks over the past couple of months. Kurt Arendse just won man of the match. So there's a lot of competition in the Springbok unit at the moment, which is great. I'm very interested to see what type of team Rassie Rasmus plays against France next week, because they pan the camera over to the stands and who's sitting there. Handré Pollard, Damian Willemse, Pieter-Steph du Toit, Kane Moody, and the list goes on. So there's so much, Rassie Rasmus created so much depth in the Springbok lineup that it's almost unfair, and it almost becomes an impossible task to pick the best 23 players to step on the field for the Springboks. It was a little bit sad to see how empty Wembley Stadium was. I know it's about 100,000 seater stadium. I know that England were playing Australia just across the road at Twickenham, so all of those factors align. But the Springboks put on a show, 9 tries, 61 points to 7. A very, very solid clinical performance by the Springboks. Our line-out worked incredibly well. Johan Grobler might have stepped up a little bit in that second half when he came on for Malcolm Marx. Malcolm Marx had a phenomenal game. But overall, I think there wasn't anyone that had a terrible game. Everyone put in a very, very good shift. We played a mix of Tony ball as well as being very clinical up front. And I think the French should be scared. I do think they should be scared for next week, because although Oxenshire is probably injured and out for next week, which is a massive, massive blunder, I'll say it again on Rassie Rasmus's part, I don't think he should have ever played in this Japan game. But we have a lot of depth. And I do think we have enough depth and enough talent and enough form at the moment to go to Paris and beat the French by at least a try, maybe even 2 tries. The Springboks are scoring a ridiculous amount of points this year, and I hope to see it happen again in Paris next week, as well as Dublin. As always, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you haven't, hit that subscribe button, leave this video a like, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.